I am David of the Debt Free Guys, and this is my partner, John.
Hello.
And we are doing our once-a-month Blab interview. This month, our featured money master was Two Cup House, Claudia and Garrett. And so we have a couple of questions that we'll ask Claudia and Garrett. They were featured on our website, debtfreeguys.com, as money masters, where they did a text interview. And now we'll do a short video interview, and then we'll post that on our website. For those of you who didn't have the chance to check out their text interview, go to debtfreeguys.com and click on the Money Master button that's on the top right. All right, so why don't we go ahead and get started? First of all, why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourself?
Okay, so I'm Claudia. Hi, and
hello.
Well, I'm 30. We live in Lancaster. I'm in digital marketing, and we're just doing the tiny house thing nowadays. So yeah.
That is awesome. I didn't know that you were in Lancaster. I thought you were in Philly. I grew up in Philadelphia, and then when I was in 8th grade, we moved to Lebanon, Pennsylvania.
Right up the road. We used to be in Manhattan.
So it's like we're neighbors. We should meet at the mall.
Yeah.
It's actually funny. We were out there last year. John keeps saying that we should move back to Philadelphia, and I'm firmly rooted in Colorado. But we did a day trip with his sister and some friends, and we went to Lancaster. And I said, this is a town I could possibly live in.
It's awesome.
So you guys live in a great area. Yeah,
a lot of art and culture there. So and breweries. There were some
microbreweries there.
Yeah, so it's right up our alley.
Yeah, definitely.
So, how about you, Garrett?
My name's Garrett, 33, mechanical engineer, and did that for 12 years, and now I'm in sales. So.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Cool.
All right.
Well, it's nice to meet you. I'm very excited about this because we weren't brave enough to go tiny house, but we did buy a condo that was only just a little bit over 1,000 square feet, and compared to our peers and what our real estate agent wanted us to buy, it was significantly smaller and cheaper. So I'm curious to learn more about the tiny house living.
Right.
So
yeah, that's actually about right. You documenting your move to tiny living.
So we started. I think we started for a lot of reasons. A long time ago, I don't even know how many years ago now, Garrett had been talking about tiny house living. And so I was not convinced. And it took, I don't know, however many years to get me on board. Because I don't know, I guess I was just kind of caught up in the usual grind and thinking like, you live in this house for 30 years and it should have, 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. And, it's just kind of, that's the way that you live life, and going tiny is absolutely crazy. And so finally this year, I don't know what really sparked it, but we kind of took a look at our situation and really what we wanted to do. Prior to this year, we had no financial goals. We're just doing the career thing. So, put 30 or 40 years in and then retire in their 60s. So it was kind of like, is that really our goal? I mean, is that going to get us to where we want to be? So once we figured out really what it was that we wanted to do, then we looked at our housing situation and all of our other expenses. Does this align with where we want to be in a year, 5 years, 10 years from now? And found pretty quickly that, living in a huge 1,500 square foot house with just 2 people, no kids, it was just not going to work out. So it wasn't going to help us get there as quickly as we had hoped to. So we started. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think during that time when we were starting to question all this, we also had my parents just retired. And whenever they were going through the whole retirement process, we started seeing that, they had a certain lifestyle before retirement and then after retirement, and they had to readjust everything. And it almost made us think, wait a minute here, we need to change our style of living when we're going to retirement. So what should we be doing now to ensure that we don't have to go through a lot of pains and making that transition? So I guess then we made even bigger transition.
Made a really big transition. And so the blog, I think, serves a lot of purposes for us. It keeps us honest. I think a lot of people say that because you live online and you have a lot of people following along, and it's like, it's a great place to get feedback and to be honest about the struggles that we're having or the successes that we've had. But also it helps us connect with other tiny housers. So in the future, when we take our little show on the road here, we'll be able to find other folks to connect with, which is a big concern of mine because I really like the tiny house community, like the actual community aspect where we could go and take, depending on, our tiny house situation, Airstream or otherwise, that we'll be able to sneak it to places where other people live on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. We'll be able to take it. We'll be able to participate in that community and, share in that kind of experience with everybody else. So that's something we'll be able to share in the future with everybody via the blog too, and use it to make those connections. So the community aspect of it, especially in the coming couple of years, is going to be really important, I think. So.
Very cool.
So what is the culture shock?
Very cool.
So what is the culture shock? You two have 4 degrees between the two of you, and you're on the career path. And I'm assuming trying to strive for the highest 6-figure salary you could get. What's the culture shock going from that mindset to?
It's pretty big, I think. At least for me, it was, because I went for my 3rd degree. I just completed it a couple of years ago, thinking I had it all figured out and I knew exactly what I was going to do. And I spent 1.5 years trying to get a job in education, and it just wasn't working out. So I thought, I wasn't seeking necessarily the biggest salary that I could at the time. I was looking for the biggest impact, and there was just no job in the field that was going to allow me to do that on a full-time basis. So it was financially prohibitive for me to continue that journey. So I went back to the field that I was comfortable in marketing. And now, as a result of going for another degree, I have some debt to pay back. So all that was pre 2015, completely new lifestyle, completely new approach. And so I'm paying that back, but I'm hoping that I can get back into, once we're a little more financially independent, I'm hoping that I can go even on a part-time or volunteer basis back into and pursue education. So then I'm less dependent on a full-time salary than I am today.
Yeah. Have you, oh, great. I'm going to forget the name of it now. With so much of education going online these days, there's so many new ways that individuals can use those skills. But I'm forgetting the name of it.
Kaplan?
No, Adam Carroll has a podcast. I don't know if you've ever listened to Adam Carroll's podcast, but he interviewed somebody recently who is starting a whole new approach to education. And I'll have to look it up and send it to you. It sounds very intriguing, very interesting. And she's actually here in Boulder. I'm going to try to figure out some way we can meet her someday, and figure out how she's pursuing this whole new education platform.
But it's interesting because now you are creating your own platform and, in a sense, educating people on a different style of living and a different train of thought. Yeah. So you're a teacher anyway.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about while we're not financial experts by any stretch, that even just being able to share this experience and our struggles, I guess we have taught others, or that at least we've allowed them to the freedom to consider. I guess other people felt that that same pressure that we did to live a certain lifestyle. I know that Garrett was feeling it, especially in engineering, and that pressure to go to a director or VP level, by 40 and live that, it's a high income lifestyle, but the, 80, 90 hour weeks and international travel was uncommon. So I guess by way of sharing our experiences, we just continue to validate that living another way is possible. It's not only possible, but it's acceptable, and you can do it.
Right.
And rewarding. We found the fact that we didn't buy a 3,000 square foot house, that we have a much better quality of life than we otherwise ever would have had. I mean, we've been able to travel extensively and be eat very well and have good wine, which we couldn't have had if we had a gigantic house just for the two of us to take, and maybe two dogs.
Yeah. It's interesting. You kind of talk about it being acceptable and the advantages that you have. You had a post recently about the amount of money that you've saved, and I think that means, especially in the national finance community, society tells you to pursue. The majority of society tells you should pursue. What do you think? How much money are you saving? What is the advantages that you have financially now because of this?
Right now, it's we still owe some money on our small house. Now, so if we take that and we compare it to the cost of the mortgage for the big house, and then the electric usage, water usage, sewer usage, we're saving about $8,550 a year. Now, once we pay this place off, which will be debt-free in a year, at that point, we'll be around $16,000 a year in savings. And we,
nice.
For us, that's definitely a true number for us, because it would take us a number of years, even paying out extra payments to pay off the big house, because that was roughly 3 times the cost of this house.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely. When we started out, we were hoping that our big house would have sold by now and would have us effectively paid for our small house, and that hasn't happened. So we've made some other lifestyle changes to be to allow us to be able to afford all of the things that we have now, because we do have 2 houses to maintain still. Hopefully not for much longer though. And so, cutting other expenses, meal planning, and really being mindful of not, going to restaurants, constantly to solve our food planning problems, or eating at lunch, eating out at restaurants every day with my coworkers has really saved us a lot to allow us to be able to do this. I just hope it's not for much longer.
It probably was good for us though, because, by having that money tied up in the large house and still making those payments, it really forced us to really streamline. We said, okay, let's challenge everything. Because if we're starting to challenge everything, then we can start saving money there. And once the big house sells, all of a sudden we just got a even more influx of cash that we can say, okay, now what are we going to do with it? Are we going to invest in that, once all of our debts are paid off, and then, reach fire, or are we just going to go on a spending spree?
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah.
But I think what you said there was very key is, you've reached a state of mindfulness with regard to your spending. We talk a lot about being money conscious. When we were younger, we were just spending frivolously, and the more we made, the more we spent. And so it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you save. So when you have that mindfulness or that money consciousness, you can just make better financial decisions. And I would not expect that you guys would go back onto a spending spree.
It sounds intriguing. I think we all want a little bit of that. But
Walmart, and we're sitting there looking at each other like, well, what do you want to get? And I'm like, I have no idea. And we literally wasted like 20 minutes trying to figure out what we should get with this thing. And it was like, wow.
It was like a $12 gift card that we had left over. And I was like, I don't even want it. I don't even want to have it anymore. Like, what do I do? Do I just give it away?
So, one thing that we didn't touch on is, we talked financially and how much we were saving between the 2 houses. The other big one that we identified that we really didn't know that this would happen. We know there was going to be some time savings, but then we started putting numbers behind it. Like the mowing the lawn, cleaning the house, 1,500 square feet a house versus 500. And we actually found out it's about 52 days of time per year. So, and we've tested that here, a number of weeks, we can save a day of time. And that's like 24 hours of time that you're awake versus, a 24-hour day where, you're sleeping half the day. So for us, that was great.
Right.
Totally.
It's
so
up
how
for
are you
debate
spending your time
now.
more wisely?
It's kind of funny that I'm glad we figured that out, and we really looked at our time, because I think it's really easy to waste a lot of time. Like I spend probably way too much time reading the news and things like that, and it's like, how am I conscious? How can I be more conscious of the time that we do spend now that we have so much free time? So what can we do? So one thing we looked at, like, how can we reach our financial goals faster? Or maybe we should set some new fitness goals. So we started running again, and, we started back to the gym. So it's like, what else could we be doing to improve our quality of life or achieve our financial goals? Or, how can we invest maybe more in the community, which is something we didn't do as often as we maybe wanted to in the past, when mowing the lawn and work and all the other stuff that comes with having a big house to maintain got in the way of that. So we're really considering all of the new ways that we could invest our time. So that's still up for debate. So how we're going to be maintaining our schedule.
But I think it's a very powerful concept. I don't think people think about that when they buy a gigantic house or a super expensive car or anything. They don't think about the time that it's going to take from other things they could be doing to making themselves or the world a better place. Because
no, and actually, while we were still in the big house, and then even after we moved, we still have to go back and maintain the yard because it's for sale, and we can't just like let it go like crazy. So I was there with the gas powered mower, thinking, I'm wasting all this time in fossil fuel to cut grass that I didn't even want in the first place. Like this is the biggest waste ever. And so it just made me really appreciate that we did take the step this time and go to something smaller and easier to maintain, where we don't have to consume so much energy, non-renewable energy, in order to maintain a life that wasn't even fitting our goals. So
our big house was an hour and a half to mow the lawn.
Yeah, to push mow that grass, probably. Yeah. Now
it's probably like 4 minutes here. It's a huge savings of time.
With scissors?
Yeah, pretty close. I mean, we actually still have the gas mower. We have one of the old school reel mowers that you just push, and we've been using the gas mower here, but we're going to end up selling that and then just go to the reel mower.
The problem with the reel that we found out is you cannot let it get too long too quickly. So, whoops. Yeah.
Gets clogged.
So, but anyway, I mean, it's just the differences in finances and time and consciousness. I mean, we're in a completely different place than we were in March of this year. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So, I mean, I'm really glad that we did start the blog and we've captured all of our experiences. So if anybody else wanted to kind of go back through the, annals of history of our blog and see how we struggled or see the steps that we had taken, I definitely encourage them to do that, because it wasn't easy at first, and even moving in was not easy. I mean, it was definitely a struggle trying to figure out where to put all of our stuff or where we're going to downsize further. But it's possible.
And it's something that I'm hoping that with us sharing this, that people are kind of realize that, hey, this is doable. This isn't as hard. Yeah, there are, those issues where, sometimes people at work look at us like, you guys are nuts,
That happens all the time.
You guys are right. Eating rice and beans every day. You live in a manufactured home. You don't have 3/4 of an acre, and it's just documenting that and saying, that happens. But the thing is that the benefits to it, the savings that we have, the fact that in 4 years, and we can do whatever we want. We're going to be financially independent. We can retire early if we want to. And, 4 years versus working 40 years, it's well worth it.
Right. I think when people hear those when people hear those benefits, that's when they kind of make sense to them.
Absolutely. Well, that leads us to our next question. You said it was a struggle to move in. What can you share with us what one of the biggest struggles was and what one of the funniest aspects was moving into a tiny house?
So what was the biggest struggle? I think, so we only have one closet in this house, and we had a closet in every room of the other house. So we had we started at the other house. We took everything out of our closets and piled it up, basically, like looking at our stuff, the accumulation of, 6 or 7 years of stuff in a big house, and figured out what it was that we really wanted to keep, what we could donate, and what we could sell to pay off some of the debt that we had at the time, because we had some credit card debt, which we've eliminated. I think the biggest challenge was figuring out what to do with the stuff. So we had things when we moved here, we had more boxes of stuff and actually buckets of stuff because that's all we had to move. I didn't think that we would need so many boxes, so I didn't get any extra moving boxes. And then after a couple of trips to this house, I was like, what are we going to do with all this stuff? So we actually had buckets sitting here. And so
food, lots of food.
So Amazon Subscribe and Save. So we used to have them ship us 6 pounds of pasta at any given time because it was cheap, right? Or, so we thought, and then we were storing it because we had plenty of space. And then we get here and we don't have room for 6 pounds of pasta. So
you have a wall of pasta.
We have it in the closet right now.
Yeah, slowly dwindling down.
Yeah.
So I guess your friends and family know what you're going to serve them when they come over for dinner.
Yeah. So I think that's both been. I think the stuff has been a tremendous challenge, and also, but really pretty amusing when we think about it now.
We also had 500 some square foot garage. We had the 2-car garage. So we basically moved everything into a space equivalent to what our garage was. And our garage was pretty full of tools and everything else. So that took some time to...
We have a teardrop camper in there too. We had it for our weekend adventures. So we had a lot of stuff to deal with.
I think American garages are so indicative of our consumer culture because we go to some friends' houses and we kind of have an idea of what they make. We don't know for certain, but their garages are just full of toys that I don't know how they have so much stuff. Yeah, it's just phenomenal. Right. I think we should do a study on that.
Right. Well, I grew up in a household. We had a little bit larger than average house in the 70s. I mean, it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, but we had a 1-car garage. And I don't think they make houses with 1-car garages anymore. You have to probably have that custom made. Now they automatically come with 2 to 3 or sometimes 4 garages just to put all of that stuff.
Yeah, and then you can't park your car in it. So.
Right. Yeah. We have several friends who don't ever park the car in the garages. It's just kind of weird. So I guess our last question before we hit the final 5 is, what are your 2 biggest life goals? We normally ask 1 life goal, but there's 2 of you, so we're giving you each one.
Right. Well, I think that you kind of said that this whole process was initiated by you asking that question, which is very interesting because that really is what got John and I started. That we started down that process of asking, what do we really want in life? And that's when everything changed for us as well. So maybe you guys could tell us what you really want in life or your big goals.
I know when we started this, we had no goals. We had none. So it was really a challenge to think of what it was that we were going to be working toward. And for me, it was time. So I really wanted my time back. By getting up at 6 a.m. to get ready for work, to get home at 6 o'clock, to rush through the evening, to get to work the next day was not what I wanted to do. And I wasn't, at the time, I was working a pretty stressful job. I wasn't a full-time employee, so there's some financial stress. I didn't want that anymore. I wanted the financial stress gone so that I could free up the time so that my work situation, I wasn't so dependent on my work situation, and I could do things with my time that are more constructive. So, to be able to volunteer in our community, or if there's, you know, an opportunity like Habitat for Humanity is something we talk a lot about, being able to just leave our house and go to another community that needs our support, to build a house, to volunteer, to go back into education. I mean, there's so many different opportunities that are available to us if we don't have to worry about our financial situation so much. So time is my goal, is to be able to free up what we can so that we can get more involved and do things that are more beneficial to our community, and not so much worrying about our finances or climbing the corporate ladder. So
yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Garrett?
How about you, Garrett?
Yeah, I would say time is the biggest thing, or at least eliminating the daily pattern that so much of us have in life. You know, you get up at 6, you sleep it, you know, you hit the snooze 2 or 3 times, and then all of a sudden it's a mad dash to get the coffee pot, get ready, get out the door. If you have kids, you know, pack them up, throw them out the door, and then, you know, rush to work. And then, you know, you're going through work, and then at 5 o'clock you realize you still have work to do. So, you know, 5:30, 6 o'clock comes, and you run home, and then you do all your activities that you need to do to prep for the next day. And then you sleep, and you just keep repeating until you see Friday. Right. And then you go, great, this is Friday. Yes, I'm so happy. Oh, let's go mow the lawn, you know? And then, you know, Sunday comes, and you're like, all right, gotta get ready for Monday. And all of a sudden, you know, 40 years of your life goes by. And then you have this list of like, I should have done this. I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have traveled more. It's like, you know, what are we missing here? Because you know, the stuff that you have in your life, what you're working for, to pile up stuff in your garage, or to have that big house that for some reason, you know, has been kind of sold to us culturally, at least in America, kind of locks you into that lifestyle. And as a result, you know, you're always going to have those what ifs. What if I would have hiked the Appalachian Trail? You know, so for me, I want to stop that nonsense. I want to stop that pattern, and really, you know, go and travel, go hiking, go do stuff that is more meaningful than, you know, mowing the lawn and driving to work every day.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very inspiring.
We appreciate those.
Excited to share this with our readers.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you want to do the final 5?
Yeah. So we have, I didn't pass these questions to you. We just have some questions that we look for really short answers, just as another way for our listeners to get to know you. Some of these are just kind of off the top of our head. So what is the most consumer debt that you ever had? Since we are financially focused, what's the most consumer debt you've ever had? If you like to hear this
the
number
true
sometimes.
number would be about $250,000, $250,000.
We include in that mortgage, and that's something in the personal finance space. I think a lot of folks ignore, because, and I really consider it a liability. So I don't know, maybe sometimes I'm a fatalist, but if something were to happen to me and I can't pay my mortgage and I get kicked out of my house, I have to consider the mortgage a liability. So lots of folks in this space think of it as an asset, and I consider it a liability. So we include the mortgage in our number.
David's with you.
It's interesting. I wrote a post about that, about the fallacy, or at least in my opinion, the fallacy of thinking that your house or the equity you have in your house is money that you have. You can add it to your net worth. If you are adding that to your net worth, you also then need to add the debt, the mortgage debt, to your balance sheet, and that basically just wipes it all out. So, you know,
people. So yeah, not until your home is 100% paid off can it be considered an asset.
Right. That's our philosophy on it. So, all right. When did you guys get married?
We'll be just about 5 years. So it's 4.5 years now.
Yeah, 5 years in July. So.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was a little curious about that question, because I don't think that, well, I wonder what it would be like for a new couple, somebody who's relatively been together for less than a year, trying to move into a small house together.
No, we've known each other, so I don't know, 12 or 13 years. Yeah. So we were very familiar with each other's personality quirks before we decided to do this. So.
it was good for us to go into a big house because, initially, and, we went through everything. We redid kitchen, bathrooms, new roof, new windows, and, tearing down walls and making things, open. And we went through those pains and those learning curves. And at the time, some moments we were having fun, other times when we were laying, 1,500 square feet of wood flooring.
It can be kind of stressful and relationship challenging, but if we hadn't made the big house mistake, would we have gone to the small house? So I don't know. So that's kind of an interesting situation.
We probably would have done that. We would have made that mistake at some point, and I'm glad we made it in the beginning of our relationship rather than, come 40.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Absolutely. Yeah, what's wrong with 40? We talk about, would we have acquired our debt if we had it all to do over again? And I kind of think we would, because we love doing what we're doing now, and we wouldn't be doing debt-free guys if we were debt-laden guys.
Yeah. Right.
So, third question: if you could live anywhere, where would it be?
You guys kind of talked about taking this tiny house and traveling. So where would you want to plant that for a while?
Oh, Moab, Utah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. We talked about this. We
That's cool. Yeah.
It's close.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. It's Moab is relatively close to us, but we have never been.
Arches National Park. It's a beautiful area.
Yeah,
gotcha.
You should come pick us up, and then we should all go.
In a couple of years, hopefully, we'll be out that way. So,
in that Airstream.
Yeah.
What has been the easiest thing to give up?
The big house.
Big house.
The big house has probably been the easiest.
Really?
Naturally, there was a lot of tough decisions. Well, I wouldn't even say they were tough decisions as far as getting rid of stuff. I mean, we started realizing that if it's in a closet and we're not using it, or we're using it once a year, why do we have it? Or, if there's something we're buying bulk of, let the store hold on to it. Let the store stock it for us, and then we just go and get it when we need it. So
I think for me, the restaurant habit was the easiest thing to give up, because it was consuming so much of our time.
Really?
When we weren't planning ahead. So we'd have to, it's like 6 o'clock rolls around. Oh, what are we going to go? We don't have anything in the house for dinner. What are we going to go do? And so 2 hours later, dinner's over, and then we're back at the house trying to get ready for the next day. So it saved us a lot of time, money, and actually our health has improved dramatically since we stopped eating out so much. So that was the easiest thing for me to give up.
Yeah, it does. It's interesting because we just wrote a post that will most likely be on Yahoo Finance here in the next couple of weeks. And it's part of the impetus for the post was, how much time are you really saving when you go out to lunch every day with your colleagues and spend $10 versus taking the 30 minutes to an hour to prepare lunches on Sunday, or maybe doing 5 to 10 minutes every night to throw your lunch together. And, it kind of is, you're not really saving any time.
Tons of time actually going to restaurants and then eating terrible food in the process. And so I don't know why we perpetuated it, but I don't know. One day we just stopped. I actually think we read something about, I don't know, meal prepping and something in the spring. I don't remember exactly what it was. And I was like, let's just start doing that. And then we haven't stopped. It was crazy. It was just one day, just a light switch flipped, and that was it.
I think a couple of things that reinforced it is that the few occasions we would go out, and we didn't do this on purpose, but somehow we ended up at the worst possible restaurant you could go to, and whether it was a health issue or the food was terrible. And it almost reinforced it that we're like, why are we wasting money going to these places?
That's true. That's true.
So that's probably a good recommendation for people. If they're having issues with, spending at restaurants, go to the worst ones you can whenever you have the itch to go. Really.
Was that Cracker Barrel? Or...
It's like Pavlov's theory. So.
Exactly. All right. Last question here. Since you were featured as a Money Master, who would you recommend that we look at next for another Money Master? And when we say Money Master, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone in the personal finance space. We also like to look at individuals who are experts in an industry, or a particular lifestyle, like yours.
What's coming to mind?
Well, one of the very first, so when we started this, we looked at blogs in personal finance and frugal living and tiny living. And so there are probably two that come to mind. And one is Macy at Mini Motives. And she was one of the very first bloggers we started to follow. And her and her family, her and her partner and their two kids live in like a 200 square foot house. So four people, wow. And she's an architect. 4 people. And her story is really amazing. She's really incredible. So I would say first would be her. And then another couple who kind of had the same realization that we did, and they're on the frugal living path, would be the Frugalwoods. They're just everywhere right now. But the Frugalwoods I would say that they're really money masters, and particularly in the savings rate, all the things that they do to really get their savings down. But I'd say those two, for me, since we kind of touch a couple of different areas, are the bloggers that we would say are money masters.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool. They both sound interesting. We'll have to reach out to them.
Yeah, we'll take a look at. Definitely take a look at. Encourage our listeners and readers to do the same.
Yeah. So thank you for your time today. I think we went over about 100%. So.
Usually this is about 15 to 20 minutes. So
I'm so glad we got to talk to you guys.
It was very intriguing. Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
And
definitely.
When you start touring the country, don't forget Colorado. We have a gigantic, beautiful parking lot across the street.
Awesome.
And we will be in Pennsylvania later in summer of 2016. July. So we may look you guys up and meet up in person.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for all your help.
Definitely.